Top 30 Heroes of the African Revolution. In terms of fighting for freedom and democracy, Africa has come a long way, as many Africans have given their lives for the continent's current sovereignty. For their belief in the African dream of equality for all, many of Africa's revolutionary heroes and heroines were slain. After the Second World War, the momentum that would eventually lead to independence in Africa began to take shape. Only a few African countries were independent at the time, such as Ethiopia, which had never been colonized, despite several Italian efforts. Following the war, Africans desired change, and inspired by Indian self-rule, they were optimistic about constructing a new civilization free of European influence. Hello viewers, welcome to another informative video on the channel. If you're new here, ensure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so as to be notified on our future uploads. Without further delays, here are the top 30 heroes of the African Revolution. Number 1. Amilcar Cabral. If there was ever such a thing as a practical philosopher, Amilcar Cabral would have been one of the very first. Amilcar Cabral, who was born in Cape Verde in 1924 and assassinated in 1973, is most known for leading the liberation wars in Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau. Amilcar Cabral was a brilliant strategist, diplomat and guerrilla, a tactician who was also known for his very humanitarian and uniquely independent political perspective. Cabral's ideas are difficult to picture without reference to his life and the gestures with which he fielded, despite the fact that he is frequently approached as a thinker through his published speeches. Number 2. Tom Mboya. Tom Mboya was a Kenyan trade unionist, educator, activist, and cabinet member who served as one of the country's founding fathers. He was the driving force behind Kenya's independence negotiations and served as Secretary General of the Kenyan African National Union, the country's independence party. Tom, who was born in Nairobi in 1930, went on to study sanitary inspection at the Kenyan Medical Department, where he was chosen as President of the Students' Council. He progressively entered politics, serving as acting treasurer of the Kenyan African Union before becoming the General Secretary of the Kenyan Federation of Labour. In 1955, Tom was successful in obtaining a 33% salary increase for dock employees. Through the establishment and coordination of African trade unions, Mboya transformed Africa. In addition, he established the Kenyan Airlift Program, which assisted poor students in obtaining education from abroad. Number 3. Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara is a politician from Burkina Faso who was also the leader of the non-aligned movement. He was born on December 21, 1949 in Yoko, Upper Volta, which later became Burkina Faso under his rule. After completing his military training, he initially entered the government in September 1981 as Secretary of State for Information, a position he held until April 21, 1982, when he resigned from August 4, 1983 until his murder on October 15, 1987, following a coup d'etat that brought Blaise Compaoré to power. He led the Burkinabe Revolution. Number 4. Patrice Lumumba. Born on July 2, 1925 in East Congo to a humble-rooted background, Patrice Emery Lumumba was a Congolese politician and independence activist who led the Democratic Republic of the Congo as its first prime minister from June to September 1960. He was a significant character in the Congo's journey from a Belgian colony to an independent republic. Later, he was enlightened by Marxism and Voltaire's views, leading him to create a composite African revolution philosophy of African socialism. This contributed to the unification of Africans in Congo as they sought independence, and the popularity of African socialism led to his admittance into the Congolese revolutionary group Mouvement National Congolais. Number 5. Fela Kuti. Kuti is one of Nigeria's most well-known revolutionary leaders. Fela Ankolapo Kuti, also known as Abami Eda, was a multi-instrumentalist, band leader, composer, political activist and Pan-Africanist from Nigeria. He is considered the father of Afrobeat, an African music form that blends traditional Yoruba percussion and vocal techniques with American funk and jazz. During the last quarter of the 20th century, Fela Kuti led revolutions against neo-colonialism. In his rebellious songs, he raised public awareness and pointed out societal injustices. Despite being imprisoned numerous times, he never gave up his fight for justice. He was born in Abeokuta on October 15, 1938, and died on August 1997 under mysterious circumstances. Number 6. Steve Biko. In South Africa in the 1960s and 1970s, Stephen Bantu Biko was an anti-apartheid campaigner. After being elected president of African students, he stood in the vanguard of the campaign against South Africa's apartheid regime. Later, he dropped out of medical school to join the Black Conscious movement, which was always calling for an African revolution in South Africa, which would empower and mobilize a large portion of the black urban population. He's been named a martyr of the anti-apartheid struggle since his death in police custody. His writings and actions aimed to empower black people while he was alive, and he was known for his slogan, "Black is Beautiful." Number 7. Julius Kambarage Nyerere. Julius Kambarage Nyerere contributed to Africa's revolution by campaigning for socialism and educating about the significance of peace. Julius Kambarage Nyerere, who was born in March 1922, died on October 14, 1999, and was a key figure in Africa's struggle for independence and the founding of the Organization of African Unity. Ujamaa, an African socialist concept that altered Tanzania's agricultural system, was his creation. He was the first president of Tanzania and the prime minister of an independent Tanganyika. He also hosted groups of Zambians fighting for independence and gave them with the resources they needed to succeed. Number 8. Mo Ibrahim. Mo Ibrahim, a Sudanese-born British entrepreneur and philanthropist who founded one of Africa's largest mobile phone businesses and established the multi-million-dollar Ibrahim Prize for Achievement in African Leadership, was born in 1946 in Sudan. He sold his business and established an African foundation to promote improved governance in the continent. Through a program known as the Mo Index, he also campaigned for healthy competition in African countries. The initiative is made to rank and credit countries based on their achievements. Number 9. Gamel Abdel Nasser. Gamal Abdel Nasser was born on January 1918 in Alexandria, Egypt. At the young age of just 15, Nasser joined the army of Egypt's 11-year-old sovereign country, inspired by a growing spirit of nationalism that swept the country at the time. Nasser was one of the troops at the forefront of a popular national rebellion that ousted the monarchy in a bloodless coup in 1952. When the revolution's commander proved indecisive, the popular and charismatic 34-year-old military officer was recruited to take over. He launched a bold campaign to transform his country right away. Nasser began to effect significant social and political change, implementing revolutionary reforms in the feudal agrarian system and adopting widely supported socialist policies. Nasser's skillful leadership restored his nation's feeling of self-confidence and honor over the course of 2 decades of post-colonial, post-monarchical, and neo-colonialist rule, laying the foundations for modern Egypt. Number 10. Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah was born on 21 September 1909 in the British colony of Nkrofulu on the Gold Coast of Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first African-born prime minister, was a notable Pan-African organizer whose radical vision and brave leadership helped the country achieve independence. From 1957 until 1966, he led his country to independence, advocating for united Africa and assisting in the African Revolution through the foundation of African Union. He also assisted the African Union in formulating its goals. Martin Luther King often looked to Nkrumah's leadership as an example of nonviolent activism, and Nkrumah's leadership served as an inspiration to him. Number 11. Kofi Annan. Kofi Annan was a Ghanaian diplomat who served as the United Nations 7th Secretary General from January 1997 to December 2006. He was born on April 8, 1938 and died on August 18, 2018. He was a well-respected ambassador who worked tirelessly to establish peace in Africa and to eliminate social problems among Africans. He was elected as the 7th Secretary General of the United Nations and received the Nobel Peace Prize. Number 12. Don Matera. In 1935, he was born in the Western Cape of South Africa. He recognized his calling to national politics after apartheid was unveiled, and he decided to join the African National Congress. He is a well-known figure in South Africa. He is well known for his activism and for fighting for the rights of the oppressed during apartheid South Africa. Later, he founded a journalistic writing group that advocated for diversity. He is a member of the last generation of freedom fighters and campaigners that battled for democracy in South Africa. He paid a high price for the freedom that many South Africans enjoy today. Number 13. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, nicknamed Africa's Iron Lady by the international community, is a huge supporter of peace, justice, and democratic government. Ellen was Liberia's 24th president and the country's first great African female leader. By working for social justice and equality among Liberians, she contributed to the African Revolution. She also aided in the restoration of stability to Liberia following a series of civil wars. Throughout her career, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the Liberian leader, has shown a strong commitment to hard work, ethics, and good administration, as well as pushing for women's rights and the value of education in ensuring a better future for our country and its people. Number 14. Jomo Kenyatta. Jomo Kenyatta was a Kenyan anti-colonial activist and politician who served as Kenya's Prime Minister from 1963 to 1964, leading the country to independence, and then as its first president from 1964 to 1978. He delivered economic progress, nationalization, and peace to Kenya, as well as overseeing the country's membership in the African Union. Kenyatta temporarily joined the Communist Party in the 1930s when he met other black nationalists and authors and organized anti-Italian protest. From 1963 until 1978, he also served as Kenya's first president. 15. Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, arguably one of Africa's most respected icons and heroes, was imprisoned for 27 years for his radical stance on the African Revolution. Upon his release, he freed South Africans from one of the world's longest wars for independence. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was born in Transkei, South Africa, on June 18, 1918. Nelson Mandela's fame improved steadily throughout his years in jail, as he was widely regarded as South Africa's most important black leader. And as the anti-apartheid movement grew in intensity, he became a popular symbol and a powerful one of resistance. He consistently refused to compromise his political position to obtain his freedom. In the African Revolution, Mandela's ageless attitude on justice and liberty has earned him a lot of respect. Number 16. Samora Machel. Samora Moises Machel was a military officer and political leader in Mozambique. He was the first president of Mozambique, serving from 1975 after the country's independence. He was a socialist in the Marxist-Leninist tradition. He was a military commander, a politician, and an African revolutionary leader in Mozambique. He campaigned against colonization and organized protests against the practice of uneven pay. In addition, he organized FRELIMO, an African front, which assisted in the War of Independence from the Portuguese. Machel claims that his radical political attitude was influenced by his family's experiences, which included his parents being forced to grow cotton for the Portuguese and being evicted from their land in the 1950s in favor of Portuguese settlers. Number 17. Emperor Haile Selassie. He is another example of someone who was at the forefront of advocating for the African Revolution through better education and healthcare. He also founded Ethiopian Airlines in order to facilitate intra-country trade and raise living standards. When Italy invaded Ethiopia, Selassie had been the country's ruler for half a decade. Selassie had demonstrated his political dexterity by outflanking his opponents on his way to power. He was also plainly cruel, a quality that his short, weary body seemed to hide. His birthplace, a mud and wattle hut in 1892, disproved his history and heritage. His given name was Tafari Makonnen Woldel Kimael, and he was a descendant of King Solomon of Israel's Solomonic dynasty. Number 18. Ngugi Wa Thiong'o. Ngugi was born in Kenya in 1938, and during the height of demand for the African Revolution, he dropped his Christian name. He used his artistic abilities to bring to a close critique of neocolonialism, which had begun to emerge in Kenya following independence. He was continually writing plays about capitalism and corruption, which were becoming increasingly popular. Ngugi was constantly sympathetic to his country's impoverished and underprivileged citizens. Most Kenyans were affected before independence because the country was ruled by foreigners. However, after independence, he demonstrated that the poor, rural, working-class people continued to suffer at the hands of their more fortunate countrymen who controlled all levels of political and economic power. As a result, Ngugi's major target of criticism switched from colonial to neo-colonial governments. His strong criticism landed him in exile in the United States, where he continued to criticize African governments while urging for an African revolution. 19. Eduardo Mondlane. He was born on June 1920 in Manchakaze, Mozambique. Despite his father's opposition, he enrolled in a missionary school, and he was also able to enroll in the University of Lisbon, which influenced his revolutionary tactics. He returned to the study of Mozambique's revolution after spending some time in the United States. He brought up intellectual socialism and made it clear that he wanted to prevent radicalization at all costs. His tactics were important in the formation of Frelimo, which eventually led to Mozambique's independence. Number 20. Kenneth Kaunda. Kenneth was born in 1924 in northern Zambia. Through campaigns, he contributed to Africa's rebirth. He led campaigns opposing British federal aspirations to partition his country. He was imprisoned for subversive literature after completely embracing politics. He was later released and elected as the leader of the United National Independence Party, which led to Zambia's independence. During his quest for revolution in Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda also got to pay a visit to Martin Luther King. Number 21. Ahmadu Ibrahim Bello. He was born in Raban in 1910. He studied local government administration in England, which broadened his expertise of governance. Upon his return, he was elected to the Regional House Assembly. Through the uniting of people in northern Nigeria and the development of a political organization that would assist in the battle for Nigeria's independence, he contributed to Africa's revolution. In addition, he pushed for political and economic equality in all regions. His efforts to modernize traditional Quranic education in northern Nigeria also demonstrates his revolutionary outlook. 22. Jonas Savimbi. Jonas devoted his life fighting for his country's independence after earning a good education in China. In 1966, he organized rebel forces that waged an independence guerrilla war against Angola. He is from the Ovimbundu ethnic group and was born in the province of Moxico. He founded the National Union for the Total Independence of Angola, UNITA, a political and military force in Angola that joined the National Front for the Liberation of Angola and the Popular Movement for the Liberation of Angola, MPLA, in the fight against Portuguese colonial authority in 1966. He planned his guerrilla wars against colonial forces, which resulted in the surrender of power. Number 23. Wole Soyinka. Wole Soyinka assisted Fela Kuti in the creation of the Abeokuta Women's Union, which advocated for tax equity. Through his literary works, he continued to challenge the regime after Nigeria's independence for speaking out against the civil war. He was imprisoned for 22 months. Following his release, he continued to promote political debates about Nigerians' needs and the current state of corruption. In addition, in 1986, he dedicated his Nobel Prize in Literature to Nelson Mandela, demonstrating his support for the anti-imperialist struggle. Number 24. Gisèle Rabasahala. In 1956, she became the first Malagasy woman elected to the local council, and in 1958, she was chosen as the party's leader. She is well known for her contributions to the African Revolution through the publication of a journal she started. The newspaper's sole purpose was to promote human rights. She also devoted the rest of her life to the liberation of Africans from colonial rule. 25. Ahmed Ben Bella. In 1954, Ahmed Ben Bella and other leaders gathered and led a group of individuals in the first military conflicts. He was an outspoken supporter of social democracy and equality. In their fight for independence, they used guerrilla warfare tactics to defeat the French colonialists. He also had a role in the African Revolution by speaking out against racial discrimination. In 1963 to 1965, he led Algeria to independence and became the country's first president. 26. Funmilayo Ransome Kuti. Funmilayo Anikulapo Kuti, commonly known as Chief Funmilayo Ransome Kuti, was a Nigerian educator, political campaigner, and women's rights activist. Funmilayo Ransome Kuti was the first female student to attend the Abeokuta Grammar School in Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria. During the colonial period in Nigeria, Funmilayo was a pioneer of African feminism and women's empowerment. She founded the Nigeria's Women's Union and was involved in social action and anti-colonialism campaigns, as well as organizing tax strikes and calling for the end of colonial authority in 1953. 27. Miriam Makeba. Zenzil Miriam Makeba, often known as Mama Africa, was a singer, songwriter, actress, and civil rights activist from South Africa. She was a vocal opponent of apartheid and white minority rule in South Africa and was associated with musical genres such as Afropop, jazz, and world music. She was active in Pan-African activist and anti-apartheid campaigns. Makeba used her songs to criticize the government and advocate for the abolition of segregation. Through her songs, she awoke the masses and inspired them to fight for their rights. Number 28. Cesaria Evora. Cesaria Evora, better known by her stage name Cesar, was a Cape Verdean singer and songwriter. In 2004, she won a Grammy Award for her album Voz d'Amor. She was regarded as the Queen of Mona and was nicknamed the Barefoot Diva because she performed without shoes. Cesaria was born in Cape Verde and wrote songs advocating for change in her home nation as well as other colonies. She urged resistance groups, revolutionaries, and exiles to keep pursuing their demands until they were met. Number 29. Chinua Achebe. Chinua Achebe, a Nigerian novelist, poet, and critic, is widely recognized as the most influential character in modern African literature. Things Fall Apart, his debut novel and magnum opus, holds a vital place in African literature and is still the most frequently studied, translated, and read African novel. Through his literary work, he has remained a steadfast supporter of the African Revolution, with his writings serving as a source of inspiration for numerous countries. Number 30. Wangari Maathai. Wangari Maathai founded the Green Belt movement and was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004, and was also the first African woman to earn the Nobel Peace Prize. She was a Kenyan social, environmental, and political activist. She was born in the rural Kenyan town of Nyerere in 1940. She advocated for women's rights and demonstrated compassion and commitment to improving the lives of disadvantaged people. She is a perfect example of modern-day African revolutionist. That brings us to the end of the video. Hope you found it informative enough, and if you are new here, ensure to hit that subscription button, and feel free to drop your thoughts on any African revolutionist that you think should be included in our list. Give us a thumbs up if you found it interesting, and turn on notifications so as to be notified on our future uploads. Thanks for watching.